Well, good evening, my friends at Fight Back 2020. We appreciate you being here. We are continuing this video series on Fight Back 2020. Again, we want to get the audio podcast going. We want to get the video podcast going as well. And basically, the only way to get them both going is just to friggin' do it. We tell people all the time, listen, if you want to do something, the best thing to do is just go ahead and do it. The best thing about living now is that we can. That we can get our message out whenever we want to, and to whomever who people who are interested in participating. So this is a good time to go ahead and do whatever the hell you want to do. Fight Back 2020 is a conservative cause that talks about some things that I think that everybody is talking about, but maybe in a little different way than most people. We do the morning report on the Fight Back Media Radio Network. Me and my friend Paul Swanson, SWANSEN of the Swanson Report. You can go ahead and subscribe to that. You can look up the morning report on Facebook, and you can see our post, and you can actually go to fightbackmedia.com and check out the morning report. And there's some Fight Back 2020s on there too. So it's a continuous loop of actually a random loop of all our programs that run 24 hours a day. So if you get up and in the middle of the night and you need something to get you back to sleep, there you go. So it's cool. All right. Well, again, today's program is going to be about free college. It's one of those things that Elizabeth Warren and Pete Buttigieg and basically all the Democrat candidates, including Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden, have talked about making college free. Because anytime you want to make something free that's super expensive, it'll catch the attention of a pretty large contingent of people, and that's what you want. And I'll tell you that works because Donald Trump showed up and said, "Hey, listen, that Obamacare thing that you hate, we're going to get rid of it," and has so far gone ahead and gotten rid of what we think here at Playback Media is the most onerous part, which is the personal mandate, where if you don't buy something that you don't want, you don't get penalized. You don't get your refund taken from you. You don't, end up in, the possibility of losing your freedom because you decided not to buy health care. So that, what gained him a lot of support, or it really gained him a lot of non-resistance. I talked to a lot of young people who were basically in between and betwixt and didn't want to pay for healthcare because they were healthy and it really didn't need to buy health insurance at this point in their lives, or was just wanted to make the choice not to. They could buy it if they wanted to, but they wanted to make the choice not to. They didn't want to get penalized. They didn't want to get their tax refund taken, and if they didn't pay the fine, possibly get their freedom taken away from them. So, and they were like, you know what, we don't know about this Trump guy, but if he will stop this nonsense, he might get my support, or I might not resist him like I might have normally. And that worked to President Trump's benefit. And I think that the Democrats are looking for something similar. If college becomes free, then a lot of families are looking at that and saying, well, you know what, now it may be possible to college educate all four of our kids or all five of our kids. And if college debt loans are forgiven, like if it's a year of jubilee as far as college debt goes, that affects a lot of people. So it is obviously something that when you say it out loud, it very much seems like, oh, thank you ever so much. Oh, thank heaven for 7-Eleven. But unfortunately, in the real world, there are always things to consider. Always things to consider. So let's look at what college is and the expense of college. Um, I wanted to because I want to talk about as much of the whole picture as I can. I want to talk a little bit about, first of all, and I know this is a small part, teacher salary. Because you hear some professors on college campuses talking about free college for students, but what you never hear them say is, oh yeah, I'll take a pay cut to make that happen. I'll take a pay cut to make college more affordable. That never, I've not, if you've heard that, comment below, because I've never heard any college professor say, hey, listen, I'll teach for free this semester if a kid can, if I can make sure that a kid who couldn't afford it can come and be in my class. Why would you work for free? And I'm not asking anybody to work for free. Don't get it. Do not get it twisted. I'm not asking anybody to work for free. I'm not asking anybody at Florida State to work for free, or University of Florida, or Auburn, or anywhere else, not or LSU or Harvard or anywhere else to work for free. But it's always interesting. It's interesting dynamic. Um, Sometimes professional ball players, especially in football, will take a pay cut in order to make the team better. Sometimes they do that. Did you know that? And sometimes star players who have been on a team for a while will take less money if they can free up enough money to hire another dude, or hire a kicker, or hire, well, not a kicker, but will hire an offensive lineman. A quarterback may take a smaller salary to make the team better, or to get another star player on. This doesn't happen with teachers at universities. So what I did was I looked at salaries.com website, and I got the average, and this is averages, salary of 6 different areas that most college students will have to traverse in their time at university. English professors, history professors, math, chemistry, communications, and economics. Most of us who've been to college have had classes in all of those areas: math, history, English, history, math, chemistry, communication, and economics. So I looked for the average salary of teachers who teach those subjects at 4-year institutions, and the average salary is 100,053.17. $101,053.17. Now, what you're saying is, and what you're saying makes a lot of sense, that doesn't necessarily sound like an incredible amount of money. It just doesn't sound like an incredible amount of money. It is if the average days worked per year is only 87. Look it up. 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 87 days. Now, if you work if you're scheduled to work 365 and 52 weeks, or 50 weeks, or whatever, that might seem a little less. But if you only scheduled to work 87 days, most of us could get by with 100 grand if we were only going to work 87 days. 87 days. It's not bad. Most college classes, most college classes, do you have every day? No. You had your Tuesday and Thursday classes, and you had your Monday, Wednesday, and Friday classes. And in some schools, you have your Monday and Wednesday classes and Tuesday and Thursday classes. And then you have labs and stuff on Friday, right? Right? Isn't that how a lot of places still do it? You know, way back when I was going to Florida State, and we were, banging rocks. Uh, we were down at the creek. Everybody down at the creek washing their clothes on rocks, right? It was a while ago. You'd ride your Tyrannosaurus to the movies, like on the Flintstones. See, just the Flintstones reference is like, dang, that was a long time ago. Yeah, it was. But in any case, that's a pretty good salary for 87 days. Is it not? It most certainly is. And then you can figure out what that is per day. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. So the idea that college professors are starving to death and having to live in communes and having to live in their car because they don't make enough money is, well, you can see without almost with no research at all, is nonsensical. And humans are a pretty large piece of the pie when it comes to what college costs. They're not the entire piece, because colleges now are competing more and more to make the on campus experience more and more resort like. Really fancy gyms, really fancy places to eat, really fancy and almost hotel living dorm life. All that becomes very, very expensive. Nobody is living a Spartan lifestyle on a campus. Not anymore. Not anymore. Um, a lot more private rooms for those of us who had roommates. A lot of us who lived in suite kind of arrangements. I lived in a suite arrangement. 4 dudes on the side, shared bathroom. And a lot of you who watch lived in a place where you had a room and a roommate, and the bathroom was down the hall, right? You remember that? The shower, the whole thing was down the hall. Almost nobody lives like that anymore. I know. And now when we reminisce about college, we think about, crap. Wow, that was Spartan. Almost no one lives like that anymore. So anyway, so that's part of the cost, as part of the cost increase as well. And we'll talk a little bit about that more later in the video. Um, so who's paying for college now? That's something else. Who's paying for college? In research I found from the College Board, 67, and this is from the College Board. This is not from townhall.com. This is not from the Cato Institute. This is not from the Heritage, this is not from the Heritage Foundation. This is not from the GOP. This is from College Board. 67% of college expenses are federal grants and loans. 67%. Wow. And there are three basic, and if you're looking, and folks, if you're looking for college, there are three basic components that you have to be looking at. There's tuition and fees, room and board, and books and supplies. And that's been the case all along. That's going to be the thing that gets you. Tuition and fees. Fees. What fees? Student fees. Student fees will allow you to go to the gym. When they take you on that tour, they take you by this really state-of-the-art gym that you have access to. Student fees. Cheap student tickets to sporting events, or free tickets to sporting events. Student fees. The pool that you can go to. Student fees. The on-campus movie theater. Student fees. The union, the night student union. Student fees. Nothing's free. Zero is free. And then, of course, room and board, because you got to sleep somewhere because they won't let you sleep in your car. Right? Those costs will be the same. No one's talking about free room and board. No one's talking about going to college and being able to live there in those really nice places for free. And someone feeding you. Second biggest cost, and of course, books and supplies. And if you're someone who's had someone in college, or you're in college yourself, and you've paid for a book lately, a book. I'm talking about, actually, you bought. I'm trying to look for all the books are over there in the bookshelf. A book, and you've paid a couple $100 for a book. A book. A book. Then you know what I'm talking about. Those are the three biggest expenses. The other, of course, is transportation. Maybe transportation, and of course personal expenses. Just how you're going to live, your cell phone bill and that kind of stuff, personal expenses, and transportation if you're going to a commuter school where you're actually going to drive there or take public transit or wherever that is. So with all that, With all of that, um, we found this is College Board stuff. Again, this is, you can look it up. The average in-state tuition, and that means that if you're going to a public school that's in the state, the average, now this is not everybody, but the average is $9,410 a year. Tuition, $9,400 a year. That's a pretty big chunk, right? That's in-state. Now, if you're a youngster, and a lot of youngsters, I'm going to use the word pupil in a minute too. Actually, I'm not. But if your youngster is looking to go to a state that is out of college, get ready to sign the big check. Because the average cost for an out-of-state college is $23,890. It's a huge number. How do we make this free? This is the same mentality that the left use when talking about free healthcare. It's so expensive. So our solution is to make it free. How do you make something that costs so much suddenly and instantaneously free? Like it had all this value and now it doesn't have any value at all. How's that even possible? I'm thinking that it's not possible. So I looked at 3 schools to look at their in-state and out-of-state tuition. Auburn University in Auburn, Alabama, which is just west, I think. Correct me if I've got my directions messed up, but not far from a place called Phoenix City, at Phenix, Alabama. How do I know that? Because I've been there. I've been there. I have stayed at the Holiday Inn in Phoenix City, Alabama, which is just west of Columbus, Georgia. Um, so to give you an idea what we're talking about, their in-state tuition there is $11,492. How do I know that? It's on their website. I'm not making up or expanding or making these numbers bigger than they are just for emphasis. I'm just not. Their out-of-state tuition estimated costs are $31,124, nearly 3 times the amount of their in-state tuition. That's a lot. That's a lot. So of course Auburn's recruiting your kid. Your kid has an 1160 on the SAT and a 17 on and a 17 on the ACT. So yeah, Auburn's recruiting your kid because this has become a what? It's become a cash cow. Because here's what Auburn knows. Auburn knows that if they can find a way to get your kid there, then they will probably, you will have to file for that FAFSA. You remember the FAFSA? You will have to probably fill that out and get some financial aid. And that financial aid will go directly to the school first, and the school will make money. Whether that's in the form of grants, which is kind of a cool thing for you because you don't have to pay grants back, or that's in the form of student loans that you'll be okay with because your kid wants to go to Auburn and you want your kid to go to Auburn. I'm just using Auburn as an example. I'm going to use a couple other schools as an example here in a second. So, of course they want your kid to go there. Of course they do. And of course you want your kids to go there because that seems like a perfect fit for you. Maybe. So, off they go to Auburn. And you fill out the paperwork and you sign the loan paperwork and they get money from the federal government, which is guaranteed, right? To the tune of the federal government pays 37% of of college costs, to the tune of $45 billion a year. So the federal government is already paying. When I say federal government, you know I mean you, right? You're already paying $45 billion a year. $45 billion a year. So when Elizabeth Warren starts talking about um, forgiving student debt up to $600+ billion, there's still. I mean, if she's going to make college free, I mean, you can have a year of jubilee, I guess. You could say this year we're not taking any money for student debt. We're going to forgive every student loan. I mean, you could bite the bullet for $1 trillion and hope to get over that soon. But if you bite the bullet for $1 trillion, now I'm saying that because it's going to be that much for a year. That year of jubilee, do you finish up that year by saying, here's what we're going to do every year, including that year, we're going to continue to pay more than $45 billion a year to make this free, so people don't have to pay? We're going to use tax dollars to do that somehow? I go back to my point. How do you make something that has such monetary value, how do you make it free, if it indeed has any value at all? Most things that are free have no value. Everybody gets to go, so it means less. Now, some of you who are older than I am remember how important it was, and so some families still do, how important it was for your kid to graduate from high school. Because that was the key to success in the day. And I know a lot of young people who are watching, you guys don't understand this, don't really remember this, but you know what? Having a high school diploma used to mean everything, because that was the key for a lot of families in a lot of places to success. You've graduated now. You can go out into the world and find a job and get a life and build a, get a job and build a career and have a family and be a participating member of the society. That used to be with just having a high school diploma. But people who had a high school diploma then did in Algebra 1 what you guys did in Algebra 2. Teachers who are watching, I'm right. Right? So they went out and made careers and started businesses and lived life. Well, time went on, and the next thing you knew, that those folks wanted to send their kids to college because they wanted a life that was better than the one they were living. And because you couldn't do IQ tests to hire people, there had to be some standard. And that standard was college. Can you complete a course of study over 4 years that hopefully made you more well-rounded? Remember that? You want to be well-rounded. You want to know about a lot of stuff. You want to be well-educated. Remember? So that whole thing was made very attractive. And because of all sorts of economic conditions, it was possible for that to happen when GDP mattered. And if you want to know more about GDP and the folly that is currently, go ahead and I put a link in the description box to a book written by a friend of mine called Unlocking the Labor Cage. And you'll learn about how that model simply doesn't work anymore economically. So basically, we started sending our kids to college. And now high school diplomas didn't mean very much. School was free. High schools were free. Public schools were free. And almost everybody was graduating from high school. Guess what? That high school diploma means almost nothing. Other than a moral victory for some families and some individuals, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything economically. Right? It gets you what? A ticket to community college. Or it definitely doesn't give you, a high school diploma doesn't give you a ticket to Boston University. Boston University, whose in-state and out-of-state tuition is the same. Well, isn't that nice? $55,892 in state and out of state. So if you want to go to Boston U, go ahead and you live in Walla Walla, Washington, go ahead and go, because it's not going to be any more expensive for you than it is for the kid who grew up down the street from Boston U. It's the same price. $55,000. Are you serious? Yes. Maybe you can get a student loan, but you better have an SAT score over 1470, because that's what it needs to. That's what you need to get in. Seems like if you have an SAT score over 1470, you'd be smart enough not to spend $55,000 a year on school, especially at Boston U. I'm sure Boston U is a lovely place and have a lot of hardworking people. I'm sure it's wonderful, but you ain't worth $55,000 a year. You're not. You're not. They're not worth $55,000 a year. They're not. So if your SAT score is over 1400, you probably are smart enough to think that that's not the answer for you. Right? So now, if you take that $55,000 a year education and you make it free, what value does it have if almost everybody can get it? If you lowered the bar, if you lower the hurdles to it, what value does it have? This is something that no one wants to talk about, because, like I said before, if you take something that's very expensive and you make it free or you make it cheaper, then everybody's down with that, and I understand that. But you're cheapening the thing. So you make the bachelor's free. Is the master's degree then the next standard that you have to have? Will that become more expensive? Well, most assuredly it will. Or the doctorate, or postdoctorate work, or whatever. You have to look at these things before we hop into them and find out that we have stepped hip deep in a whole tub of horse crap. Unintended consequences. Now, am I saying that financial need needs to be the thing that tears us in society? Well, the fact of the matter is that financial, the economic status has been one of the things that have always tiered us. Always. Always. And it won't change if college is free. Because there will always be those who will not be able to afford to go to the next level. If college and universities start paying, or the government starts paying for degrees, what degrees will they pay for? Will they continue to pay for your women's studies degree? My friends who are music majors, music education, is that important to the vibrancy and the economic future of the nation? Should they be paying for women's studies degree with an emphasis in African women? Are they going to continue to pay for those? I'm not saying don't study women's studies. I'm not saying don't be a music major. I'm not saying don't be an art major. I'm not saying don't be a history major. I'm not saying don't be an English major. I'm not saying don't be an art major with an emphasis in Middle Eastern pottery. I'm not saying that at all. But the only way that you can continue to do what you want to continue to do is not have someone else be in charge of it. If you're passionate about it and it's important to you, then you'll find a way to pay for it. Because that's what that is. If you love it and you're passionate about it, you'll find a way. Everything that you need, you already have. If someone offers to pay it for you, then unfortunately you have to be very wary of how long they're going to pay and then what they're going to ask for on the other end. In that sense, young people, be distrustful. Be distrustful. Sometimes the answer is, yeah, thanks, but no thanks. I'll do this on my own. That's what you want to do sometimes. Sometimes it's thanks, but no thanks. I'll do this on my own. Yeah, your offer is tempting. Thank you, Bernie Sanders. Thank you, Elizabeth Warren. Thank you, Pete Buttigieg. Thank you, Andrew Yang. Thank you, Cory Booker. Thank you, Kamala Harris. Thank you. But you know what? I think I'll do this. I think I'll go this one alone. Me and my family will work this out. Because it means so much to me. I want to make sure that I have full control over it. Having this degree in women's studies with an emphasis in African women is important to me. And having that major available is important to me because it's going to be a very, very short step between that is free, which means the federal government is actually paying for it through tax dollars, that they decide that, you know what, at certain universities, they're not going to offer that degree. Or they can offer it, but the federal government's not going to pay for it. So that degree is going to go away. If you think that's not going to, it's going to be what happens, that's exactly what's going to happen. And you don't want that to happen. You don't want less choice. It's like going to a fast food restaurant. Everything here is free, but we only have onion rings. We only have onion rings. They're free. But I don't like onion rings. But they're free. Okay. Oh, and they're cold. Oh, I'm sorry. We only have cold onion rings here at the free university. Think this thing through. Don't just jump at an opportunity to hop out of your responsibility or to hop out of your struggle. Because I understand for a lot of people, it is a horrific struggle. So let's find other ways to make college less expensive. Let's take other options. Trade schools. Some great trade schools are out there. There are some great two-year certificate programs that lead people to have tremendous lives that are out there in a lot of fields. Let's take other options. And maybe, if you ask, we'll explore some of those other options in future videos. Anyway, time to get out of here, make room for somebody else. Thank you for coming to Fight Back 2020. My name is Willie Lawson. If you want to know more about Fight Back Media, go to www.fightbackmedia.com. That's fightbackmedia.com. Go out there and take care of yourself. Love somebody, take care of yourself, and till we see you again. Peace.